Welcome to the Clemson Dubcast. Monday morning, recording this here. First day of October. What a wild and crazy Saturday afternoon in Death Valley. Amazing finish there. Clemson improves to 5-0. Tigers have won 48 of their last 52 games. Also, games decided by 8 points or less since 2011, 24-4. That is nothing short of amazing, and that is unmatched over that stretch by anyone in college football. If you're listening to this on Monday morning, Paul Strelo's Monday Recruiting Insider, hot off the figurative press. A lot of good info in there, as always, just jam-packed with really good recruiting intel and insight. Also, a lot of analysis of where the football team is right now after the win over Syracuse, moving forward to Saturday's game at Wake Forest. A lot of injuries, a lot of dings and bruises. Of course, Trevor Lawrence, the most high-profile injury with the concussion that he suffered late in the second quarter on Saturday. So should be an interesting week to monitor all those developments. Also, Trayvon Mullen, a pretty severely sprained ankle. It certainly looked like watching him hobbling around the sidelines. So still some questions about that secondary and the attrition that they've dealt with lately. Title sponsor of the Clemson Dubcast, Parham Smith and Archenhold Law Firm in Greenville. Very happy to have them aboard. Couldn't do it without them. Blake Smith and Brooke Archenhold, both Clemson grads, both huge fans. Forte of their firm is medical negligence. They represent patients and their family members in medical negligence actions. They also handle all sorts of other complex personal injury litigation. I can vouch for them. About 10 years ago, a family member had a pretty serious medical situation with one of the local hospitals. Went to Blake Smith, and he very quickly and authoritatively gave us some great advice, and we were very thankful for that. Parham Smith and Archenhold offers free consultations. Give them a call, 864-990-4581, or parhamlaw.com. Another proud sponsor of the Dubcast is the Abernathy Boutique Hotel, smack dab in tailgating territory, right on 93 there, across from Lower Lot 2. Tell you what, the ESPN folks are in town a lot over the course of the year for various functions and duties, and they crash at the Abernathy, and the reviews have been just rave from the ESPN folks, including, of course, Kirk Herbstreit, who gave them a prestigious Herbie Award, I guess about a month ago. That's really, really cool stuff, given that it really hasn't been that long since they opened their doors. Really cool spot to go hang out during the week in the evenings. Taps Bar and Cafe, a little bit of more of a laid-back alternative to the bigger, louder bars in town. Typical bar amenities, but also higher-end wines and liquors for those who have more discerning tastes. Also flatbreads, pizzas, panini sandwiches. Bar opens at 4 in the afternoon. Great gathering spot for a low-key happy hour. Check them out online at theabernathy.com. Okay, really excited about today's guest, David Treadwell. Anybody who was around in the state of South Carolina in the 80s probably has indelible memories of Mr. Treadwell kicking those game-winning field goals against Georgia in 86 and 87. Just Mr. Clutch, the most clutch kicker in Clemson history, member of the Clemson Athletics Hall of Fame, went on to a distinguished NFL career, and comes back to Clemson once a year, really tight with Dabo, so that's pretty cool little subplot. Want to give thanks to Russ Abear, local real estate presence. Just met him a couple of weeks ago, and just in the course of conversation said he was really tight with David Treadwell, and asked if I might be interested in having him on the podcast, and it's like, yeah. So David just happened to be coming into town with his family last week, so we sat down right downtown Clemson, outside of the new Mr. Knickerbocker last Friday afternoon. So hope y'all enjoy, and we're going to change it up a little bit here and present some of the audio from the TV broadcasts of those indelible moments in 1986 in Athens, in 1987 in Clemson. So hope y'all enjoy.
Clemson's obviously is going to use as much of the clock as they possibly can.
I'm not sure that Coach Ford was happy with that play either. As Treadwell, who beat Georgia a year ago, continues to warm up here on the sideline.
Obviously, Danny Ford knows very well where Treadwell likes the ball spotted to make a kick. So ultimately, by the time fourth down rolls around, it will be wherever he likes it.
This leaves Clemson with a 1st and 15. McFadden got to the 11-yard line. Brent Collins, linebacker, brings him down there.
Unbelievable blocks, Brent, up front. Watch the offensive line, how they come off the ball. See Phillips, number 61, he was the right guard. The huge hole, the key block by Phillips, the right guard who pulled and trapped and created the big hole for Allen.
Now the ball is at the 11-yard line, and it's going to be 2nd down and 8. Time running down toward 1:30. Clemson without a timeout, and they must be very careful when they elect to move this field goal team in if it comes down to that. They cannot stop the clock with a timeout. McFadden inside the 10-yard line, and Ford has to be very aware of the clock now. It's moving down toward 1:10. This will be a 3rd down from about the 7-yard line. They would have to go near the 3 for a 1st down. They're moving down inside of a minute. He cannot allow the clock to run out before Treadwell gets on the field. A couple of substitutions from the sideline, and the clock continues to move. Clemson will try to bring it down, so Dooley will not have any time left. Straight ahead. That was Tracy Johnson up over the top. Now the clock running. Treadwell from the sideline. Here it comes. A year ago, Treadwell defeated Georgia with a field goal. History can repeat itself here this afternoon. It'll be a 21-yard attempt. Treadwell is 3 of 4. The crowd will tell you this story.
For the 2nd year in a row, David Treadwell. Remember, they had one blocked earlier, but very good protection there. And Brent, there was a penalty for too much celebrating again after the field goal. Can you believe that? They'll assess it on the kickoff with 2 seconds left. I'll tell you, he is a clutch kicker. The 4th time in his career that he's won or tied a game for Clemson.
Okay, here with David Treadwell. This is odd, David. I've yet to do a podcast downtown Clemson right up front of Mr. Knickerbocker on a Friday afternoon. So thank you for this first for me.
Absolutely, and it's great to be back in town. The landscape has changed around here a little bit. They're rearranging some of the furniture in the stores, but still good old Clemson. Love being back.
And you come back, you live in Denver, you have for a long time. You come back once a year? Is that?
I try to come back at least once a year. Yeah, that's usually the game plan. And now I've got teenage kids that are seriously considering coming to Clemson. So it's more and more meaningful to them as well to be able to come back and experience game day and be around campus. So we'll see if I get one or two or maybe all three of them here.
So we were just talking before I pressed record. After your playing career, you actually went into media. Can you maybe share? I mean, people around Clemson probably don't know that.
Well, when you get done playing the game, the one thing you miss about it is kind of that game day feel, that game day action of being on the field. And to me, being around broadcasting was the next best thing. What I enjoyed more about that was the game day broadcasting, not necessarily the weekly anchoring or the weekly radio shows that we did. I like being around the games, doing sideline, doing color. So I got a taste of all of that, and it was a fantastic run, but it wasn't the right fit for me for long term. But I still do it part-time. So even today I do Broncos game day. And so I'm the first one on doing pregame for the Broncos every Sunday morning. But this week, the reason I'm in Clemson is because the Broncos play on Monday night.
Ah, cool. So commercial real estate is what
I do commercial real estate for CBRE back in Denver. I do the debt and structured finance side. So I finance anything from apartment buildings, office buildings, industrial, medical office, retail, whatever it is. Work internally with our group a lot, but a lot of time, we have our own clients too that we do business with.
Clemson 84-87, consensus first-team All-American 1987, first-team All-ACC. Broncos 89-92, played in the Super Bowl. Giants 93-94, Pro Bowl 1989. You graduated with a degree in electrical engineering, and from Jacksonville, Chuck Reedy recruited you?
That's right. Yep, Chuck Reedy.
And you weren't even a kicker on your high school team. Is that correct?
No, I was a soccer player, but I loved football. Loved the game. Just was never big enough. I'm tall and thin, and I kind of lose the leverage game when it comes to football. And I had two soccer teammates that were the current kickers for my high school in Jacksonville, Bowles High School. And one was a senior and one was a junior. And there wasn't a place for me to try out kicking. And I used to kick on the side with those guys all the time. Todd Solomon, the senior, went on and got a scholarship at the Naval Academy. Barry Barco went on and got a scholarship, who was my same year at FSU, and I walked on at Clemson. So we had a pretty good soccer team.
And you grew up pulling for Alabama.
I did. My dad was a big Bear Bryant fan and loved the Crimson Tide. And I really thought I was going to go there and try to walk on. But the year I was coming out of high school, Bear Bryant coached in the Liberty Bowl in 1982 and then stepped down and died shortly thereafter. And I was like, I don't want to go to Alabama anymore. Bear Bryant's not there. So the next best thing to me was to go play for Danny Ford, who was a Bear Bryant prodigy, played for Bear, coached under Bear, and then became a head coach for Clemson. I watched Clemson win the national championship in the Orange Bowl in 1981, beating Nebraska, and that's what kind of put them on the radar for me. At that time, I would have been a sophomore in high school, and I was like, Clemson might be a pretty good place to go. And I was pretty good in math and science, and Clemson has a great engineering school, and that's how it all kind of came and fit together.
And I guess they played in the Gator Bowl a couple of times, too.
We played once when I was there with the team. We beat Stanford, so that was a fun homecoming.
I'm sorry, I'm talking when you were a kid.
When I was a kid, they played Ohio State. That was the famous game where Woody Hayes punched Charlie Bauman and got Woody Hayes fired. And Clemson was probably known more for getting Woody Hayes fired at that time, unfortunately. But, so I'd seen Clemson play. I didn't see him firsthand, saw him on television. But, I just thought, what a great place of the country to go up in the upstate part of South Carolina. And it met all my expectations. This is beautiful countryside on the lake in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains.
So what did Coach Reedy tell you? Come on up and walk on and we'll see?
Come on up to Clemson, walk on. No promises, no guarantees. We got a couple guys here in Bob Pauling and Donald Igwe-Buike. They've got the position nailed down for a couple years. You can be on the team, you can work out, you can try to hone your trade. So I don't know if you remember over there on the practice fields, we had this kind of broken down looking set of 9-foot uprights off to the side over by the moat. And that's where I'd just practice all day long. I'd just figured if I could hone kicking on 9-foot uprights, I could make it. When we got into it back in the day, college uprights used to be 24 feet wide. And then the NFL goes to 18 feet wide. And now the college and the NFL are exactly the same. But I just felt like if I could make it on a 9-foot upright, when I get out there on the game field, it looked like wide open.
1985, Danny Ford takes 4 kickers to Virginia Tech.
Yes. And the story I am aware of anyway, it might have been different behind closed doors, is they said they didn't know who was going to kick. So my theory was, well, if you don't know who's going to kick, well, I'm going to go stand next to Coach Ford when it gets to be a kicking situation. And he'd just kind of grab you by the back of your jersey and go, kicker, get in there, go kick. And so that was my strategy. And so that's how I got on the field. I'm sure that isn't truly the case. He probably had a pretty good idea that I had won the job. I had heard kind of rumblings that I had won the job and that I was going to be the guy. And it was my first real live game experience kicking an extra point. And I can vividly remember Todd Schoner was my holder, and we worked so closely together between the snap, hold, and kicker that when I went out on the field, it felt just like practice. And that's where the light went on for me. I was like, this is no different than what I've been doing 1,000 times a week, kicking a football. And I was able to just kind of all the anxiety and the stress and pressure just went by the wayside in almost that instant. And I said, I can do this.
And the game-winning kick was how far?
It was originally 41 yards. We got roughed. I got roughed, and we missed it. And so they moved it up. Was running into the kicker. They moved it up 5 yards, and I was landed on my head, I thought. I mean, I got completely wiped out, and they thought I took a dive. I was like, I don't take dives. I wouldn't have known how to take a dive. It was the first game I'd ever been in. I get completely wiped out, land on my head, and they say, no, running into the kicker, you get another shot at it. Moved it up to 36, and I made it. We win 20-17.
And you made it by a millimeter?
Yeah, it was pretty close. I probably got under it a little bit more than I wanted to, but it was straight as an arrow.
And so, obviously, everybody knows about the 86 kick in Athens, 46 yards, 87, 21 yards. But one of the interesting things that people might not remember is that in 84 in Athens, you were on the sideline and watched Kevin Butler kick that 60-yard.
I was in street close. I remember that game. And what a rivalry that was, had been going on for years, but really, I think, developed more so in the mid-'80s when Clemson was really competitive with Danny Ford, the kind of the back-and-forth rivalry. And that was a phenomenal game. I remember Donald Igwe-Buike had a great game in that game, hitting a couple long ones, and we had a shot. If I remember right, Donald went down there and made a long field goal, and we thought we'd won, and then Georgia got the ball back, and they went down, and Kevin Butler made an even longer field goal. I think it was 61 yards. And so I remember that game very vividly, and the opportunity to go back in 1986 and do the same thing to them, wow, that was pretty special.
1:06 to go. Well, I was talking to this coach, Troy, about the chances for Clemson to win this ball game. And he related to me the story about one of the players who bought a boa constrictor. Wasn't supposed to have the snake in his dorm, but he bought it. Then he went out and he got a rat. And he stuck this rat in the cage for the boa constrictor to eat. Woke up the next morning, and the rat killed the boa constrictor. He said, that's the way we're going to play this football game.
Clemson with 3 timeouts remaining. Flagler, big opening, cuts outside. This could be a big gainer. He is out of bounds at midfield. Moss forces him out near the 49-yard line. Good block from Ricardo Hooper downfield. And that big run from Terrence Flagler. Crucial play. First down, Clemson.
Forget about the yards for a moment, which are very important. More importantly, it's a smart run because he gets out of bounds. He's a long way from the sideline. All of the blocking he had him positioned to go up the field. But he did the smart thing, got out of bounds, and stopped the clock with 59 seconds on it.
59 seconds exactly. Williams, he's got room across the 40, knocked down about the 34-yard line. Clemson moving the football. And the clock has stopped. Williams did manage to get out of bounds, a gain of 15 yards. On the sidelines, that's number 18, David Treadwell. He missed that 39-yarder earlier in the game. I'm sure that's on his mind.
He has had 8 attempts between the 40 and 49-yard line. He has made 5 of them. So he does have a bit of a leg on him.
His longest, 49 yards. 53 seconds to go. Lancaster. Steve Boswell. 44 seconds. 43, 42.
Has one timeout left. I think they like to save that timeout if they run the ball again in order to make sure that the field goal unit has enough time to get onto the field and get set.
2nd and 7. The give is Flagler. He's brought down in a hurry by the Bulldogs, just across the 30-yard line.
Corey, I'm speculating that they're handing the ball off in the middle just to keep that ball in the center of the field to give David Treadwell a straight shot for a field goal.
9 seconds to go, 6 seconds, and Danny's going to go for it right here. Calls a timeout with 4 seconds to go. So if he can't win it on this field goal, nobody's going to win it.
Well,
I tell you what, this game started off like gangbusters right off the bat. Georgia got the lead. Clemson comes back. Georgia retakes the lead. Clemson comes back. It went like that till it was 21-all. In the third quarter, finally, Clemson got up front for their first touchdown lead of the day, 28-21. Then, of course, Georgia comes back to tie it, and it's 28-28.
these are the kind of football games that really mark college football as an exciting sports form all across the country. Great rivalry, USC, UCLA, or USC and Notre Dame, Auburn, Alabama. When the teams come to play, you can throw out all the statistics, you can throw out all the forms on how the game should work, on who should win and who should perform well. And watch these two teams play because they're playing for pride. Some gutsy ball players down here.
Treadwell won the Virginia Tech game a year ago in his very first college contest. A 36-yard field goal with no time to go. This time it's 46 yards. And Georgia is going to call a timeout just to make Mr. Treadwell think a little longer about what's at stake here.
That's it. Give him a little extra time. Maybe make a few changes on defense, talk to the guys, let the defensive personnel get a timeout's worth of rest so they can put on the big rush, possibly block it.
So Treadwell, it was the longest kick ever, 49 yards. His next longest after that was 46 yards. That was against South Carolina last year.
He's missed them at 47. 22, 47, 45, 51, and 50. Those are all long-distance field goals, and you don't expect them to make those all the time.
Number 10 for Clemson, the holder is Todd Schonar.
This is what dreams are made of, Corey, right here.
They certainly are. Treadwell again missed the 39-yarder minutes ago. Now it's up from 46, and it is good. Good. Clemson wins it.
No time on the clock.
That's it. The Tigers come through. Treadwell, the 46-yard field goal as time expires, and they are leaping and going crazy. The Tigers' first win here in Athens at Sanford Stadium since 1977. There it is. You don't see it very often. The Tigers, their first victory of the year. Vince Dooley and Danny Ford, who've been known to battle it out the middle of the field in times past, congratulate one another on an outstanding football game. Unbelievable. One more time. The kick from Treadwell.
There is not a player in college or anywhere else that doesn't live for this moment. As children, we play games with time running out, and we make the last shot. We score the touchdown. We make the final field goal with no time. And he kicked it, and he knew. He knew it was straight, and he had the leg behind it.
Put me up on your shoulders. I came for it. But their reaction was, Vince is walking across and, hey, you won the game. Both coaches will have a lot of things to look back on after this game. I tell you what a game. Down the field now, and Mike Adamley. Michael.
David, it had to be phenomenal. You missed that one earlier, and you just put it out of your mind.
I knew I was hoping they'd give me a second chance because, you know, the team's been playing real well all week, and I wanted the opportunity to be able to do it against because I knew I could make it again. I feel like I let the team down, and I missed that showing because that's well within my range, and I don't like missing.
Have some water. You deserved it. What does this mean to the Tigers beating Georgia here at Sanford Stadium, where it almost never happens?
It's quite an accomplishment. We worked real hard all week to come off a loss of Virginia Tech. I feel like we prepared real well. Everybody was up, enthusiastic, but we needed a big win.
And considering that Coach Danny Ford has said, let's not commit any turnovers, and you commit a whole bunch of them today, yet you still survive.
Well, we were really fortunate. We made some mistakes. They made some mistakes. We were fortunate enough to come on top. And one thing I like to say, that was a team effort. I didn't do it by myself. Everybody played together as a team. We couldn't have done it without everybody.
Well said. Greatest moment of your life?
I'd have to say yes.
Okay, David, congratulations. David Treadwell, the man of the hour. Back to you, Corey.
Wow, I guess so.
And then in '87, I read that somebody in your class the week of the game said, do you think you're going to make another game winner? And you said, there's no way that could happen 2 years in a row.
Right. It's actually Bill Spire's wife.
Is that
Laura
right?
Spires. She was just, a friend and was just talking and kind of just casually, innocently asked, do you think it's going to come down to that again? Do you think it's going to be another game-winning kick? And I was like, oh, no, that never happens 2 years in a row. It's not going to happen. And sure enough, it was one of those games where it was back and forth, made 4 field goals in it, the game winner being a part of it. So that one even felt more special because I was such an integral part of the game. It wasn't just the last kick. I felt more a part of that win because of the 4 field goals. But, man, to beat Georgia in back-to-back years, pretty good stuff.
I read somewhere that, you were very accomplished in the NFL, but that those 2 moments were the pinnacle for you?
They still rank up there as some of my favorite kicks. There's no doubt. And I think that's just college football. And even to this day, I'm still a huge football fan. I love following the Tigers, even from afar. Back in Denver, Colorado, I usually make a time for them on Saturday morning, even with all our kids' activities. We try to record the games, DVR the games if we can't watch them live. But love college football. Love the excitement, the enthusiasm, just being on campus, the love of the game type feeling. Because I had a lot of big kicks in the NFL. It happens because games are even closer. There's more parity in the NFL than there is in college football. And a lot of times it'll come down to those game-winning kicks. But it's more of a job in the NFL. And the opportunity in college football to do something for your school, the school spirit, just being around your team, your teammates, it was just so much more meaningful. And I'm incredibly loyal to Clemson, probably for that, because they gave me the opportunity. Chuck Reedy invited me to walk on, and Coach Ford had enough confidence in me to allow me to win the job, and then I felt like I earned it from there. So it's just a great experience. And just even talking about it now, I still get chills.
Players from the Ford era say practices were so hard that by game time it was almost easy. But those are quarterbacks and offensive linemen and defensive linemen. What about the kickers? What did Coach Ford do? How did he handle? What was the psychology there for how he handled his kickers?
Coach Ford will get a laugh out of this too. He may hear this, and I'm happy if he does. That would be great.
I don't know if he listens to the podcast.
Hello, Coach Ford, if you're listening. He used to rag on kickers pretty good. The towers out there, he'd always sit up in the towers, very, very Bear Bryant-esque, sitting up at the towers. He had a megaphone. And we'd be over off on the side, and he'd look at us, and I don't know, there's only so many kicks you can do in a day. And he'd come across the megaphone, he'd go, "Kickers, quit killing grass over there." What are we supposed to do, Coach? There's only so much we can do. So I got a good chuckle out of that. He was a great coach. He's even a better man, a better person. When we were all said and done here, there wasn't a thing in the world that he wouldn't have done for us. So love Coach Ford and the things that he did for us. And he's a big reason why Clemson football is today what it is.
Anything you remember he would say to you during games, during some of those pressure moments?
No. I remember, I think in that Georgia game, he said to me, he goes, "Can you make it?" And I don't really pay attention to too much where we are on the field. I'm not doing the calculation, like this is a 29-yarder, this is a 46-yarder. I don't really think that way. I'm more caught up in the moment of, okay, I'm ready to go kick. And, of course, anytime a coach asks you something like that, you're going to say, yeah. If you hesitate for a second, then they know you lack the self-confidence to do it. But most of the time, he just left me alone and let me do my thing, which for me personally was the best thing you could do, because I already went through all the kind of the mental imaging and saw the ball going through the uprights before I would even go out on the field and kick. I'd like trick my mind into believing I'd already been successful before I'd been on the field. I used to do that, a lot of that stuff before games, the night before games, during games, seeing myself in those situations. So for the most part, he just left me alone. I knew what he expected of me, and I was out there to perform.
Terry Allen was back here a few years ago.
TA.
I actually accompanied him to class one day to write about that experience. Nobody knew who the heck he was, and that has to be so surreal because in the play-in days, everybody knew who he was. Do you get recognized when you're back on campus?
Yeah, the more game-winning kicks I had with each passing moment, I got more and more recognized.
I'm talking about now.
Oh, even now? Yeah, people will come up and say hello to me.
Yeah.
I've seen a handful of people walking up and down the street, but I blend a lot better than the average football player because I'm a normal-sized guy. So they don't look at me like, oh, you used to play football here, because we were identified by our numbers and our helmets. And some people are better than others at recognizing me, but it's fun being around here. It's just a treat.
First time you heard the name Dabo Swinney, first time you met Dabo Swinney?
And I've gotten to know Dabo Swinney in a very close way. He's become a good friend, thanks to Harry Frampton, who's a big Clemson booster. He invites the guys out after the season's over to go skiing every year up in Beaver Creek Vale, and I get invited up to go skiing with him for a day or two. So I've really gotten to know him on a totally different level. But first time I'd heard of Dabo Swinney is when he took over as the interim coach for Tommy Bowden. And I remember talking to Harry Frampton about it. He goes, "You're going to like this guy. He's a young, enthusiastic guy, full of passion, really loves what he does. I think he might be the guy." And for Dabo to come in and do what he did as an interim coach and then earn the head coaching job, that he had a plan to build it the way he did. And then I stayed close to the program because some of my former teammates became assistant coaches for Dabo. And it was great to stay in touch with those guys, and that's how I got to meet Dabo and then get to know him even more personally, his wife and his family, and all the coaches and their wives and the family when they come out to Colorado each and every year. And it's just, he's a special person as well. And he's changed the culture around here. This is truly a winning culture, and they do a phenomenal job with the types of players that they recruit. And I have nothing but the best for what they've built here at Clemson.
They had some stumbles early in his first few years. Do you remember when you first said, this guy's going to take us?
Well, you could just see it coming based on the type of players they were recruiting. You could tell he was doing it right. It takes time to compete on the level they're competing at now. I mean, they're in the upper tier of college football. That's no easy task, to be on par and not be afraid or intimidated of playing someone like Alabama, who year in and year out is the best team in the country. It's like Alabama and everybody else, and can somebody take them down? And I think Clemson's right there in that conversation now every year because of the type of talent he recruits here, the depth that he has to keep rolling it year in and year out. That's pretty special stuff.
Business owners, you need to know about Tandem Payment, credit card processing company headquartered in Greenville, South Carolina. Office is located throughout the Southeast. One of the owners is a 2005 Clemson grad. He's forced the other owner to become a huge Clemson fan as well. Business owners out there listening, you know how painful it is to get the weekly phone calls from the national processing companies promising, quote, the lowest rates in the industry. Tandem approaches this business completely different. They handle all their business face-to-face. Why would you trust the majority of your hard-earned money to somebody over the phone? Tandem utilizes a consultative approach where they look out for the best interest of their potential clients. First company across the country to receive the BBB Award for Integrity. Tandem also employs Clemson graduates as well as former Clemson football player Hot Rod McDowell. The newest program Tandem offers is called Cash Discount. You can eliminate up to 100% of your annual credit card processing fees. The best part, it encourages more cash transactions inside your business. Plus, you save the typical processing fees you pay annually. Call Tandem 864-672-1570 or tandempayment.com. What was it like for you when Clemson was wandering around in the wilderness for 20 years in mediocrity?
It was hard. It's hard, especially being in Colorado, because people don't have a lot of name recognition for Clemson in Colorado. So when you're then back on the map and they see Clemson do what they're doing, now people identify me with Clemson back in Colorado. It's like, oh, yeah, you went to Clemson. That's pretty cool. Look what they're doing. But when they were just kind of mediocre during that time, I was still a fan. I was probably a frustrated fan like everybody else, and I hate to see the Tigers lose. So it was a tough time, as it was for anybody, I'm sure.
Style of offensive football in your time in the 80s was like a galaxy away.
We were 3 yards in a cloud of dust. That's why I became such a great field goal kicker. I got a lot of opportunities, right? Now they throw it around 30, 40 times a game, but because they can throw it around, they almost create the run with the pass. They loosen them up by all these horizontal passes, getting it out on the edge, getting it out on the perimeter, and that frees up the run. And they got some tremendous athletes both at the receiver position and at the running back position. I think it's only going to get better and better. No ill will against Kelly Bryant. I wish him the best. I'm sorry he felt the way he did and it didn't work out. But this Trevor Lawrence is a special kid. You can see he just elevates the offense to another level. And it's very dynamic the way he runs it. He's only a true freshman, so there's going to be some bumps in the road. But he runs a pretty good show. I think it's pretty impressive and should be impressive for a couple years to come.
Talking about the difference in offensive philosophies from when you were here to now, if Rodney Williams came along now, would he be a tight end?
You'd have to ask Rodney that question. You probably could. He's on the broadcast. I wonder what Rodney would say. Rodney could be like an H-back.
Yeah.
But Rodney was so smart in the way he ran our offense. He was a great quarterback for our system at the time. I mean, everybody fit within their eras, right? People say, oh, you kicked 20 years too early. Look at all the money you could have made now. I said, I probably wouldn't have kicked now. Look how good they are. They're so strong and they're so accurate from distance. And how I won the job is I was accurate, but I wasn't super strong. I was strong enough, but not the strongest, like some of these guys that hit from 60, 65. It's incredible with the accuracy they kick at 50 plus now. So everybody fits within their era. And same for me. It was the right place, right time.
The walk-on is a part of this program's DNA with Dabo, former walk-on.
He was a walk-on himself. That's
Hunter
why.
Renfro.
Yeah, totally.
Walk-on. Jeff Scott.
Yep.
On down the line. Does that mean that much more to you, having been through the same sort of route yourself?
It just means that he's open to giving guys chances. Everyone gets a chance. It's a performance business. If you perform well, you'll play. And I think that's the way he treats anyone and everyone who wants to come out and have an opportunity. There's only so many scholarships you can give. There's another great story, speaking of walk-ons, Denver Broncos right now, Phillip Lindsay. He wasn't invited to the Combine. He wasn't drafted in the NFL, but he had a great 4-year career with the CU Buffs, and now he's one of the most electric guys on the Broncos offense, a guy that was completely unwanted. So there's a time and a place for everybody, and I love that coaches like Dabo Swinney give those types of guys a shot. And if you earn it, more power to you.
Travis Etienne. Some people have said that he is a dead ringer for Terry Allen.
Oh, my gosh, yes,
you
totally.
buy that?
When I first saw him run, that's what I saw was TA. Because of the balance with which Terry ran was phenomenal. He'd look like he was getting knocked out of bounds right along the sideline. He'd land on one leg and keep going down the sideline. It was just amazing. The athletic ability and the balance that he had. Etienne, same thing.
Terry has had some issues with the concussion-related stuff. How big of a...
I think it's real.
Yeah.
I think it's real. I've got a lot of fellow alums back in Denver. I'm on the alumni council. And it's sad to see what a lot of these guys are going through. And I think they're learning more and more about it, how to better treat it, how to better identify it. Used to be when guys would we call it getting your bell rung. You go right back in the game. Not anymore. They're more aware of it. So hopefully they're going to treat it right going forward. But it's bad stuff because you don't know how the brain's going to react. Everybody reacts differently. It's sad.
Is it heartbreaking when you hear one of your former teammates say, I can't remember how to drive home from the store?
Totally. Things you take for granted. Just living life. It's incredibly sad that anybody should have to have that kind of legacy from having played such a great sport. But guys, if they're not having mental issues, head trauma type issues, they're having knees, shoulders, backs, ankles, hands, fingers. They're beat up guys. It's a violent sport.
What's the game going to look like in 5 years, 10 years? Any idea?
I think players will adapt. I'm already seeing that they're adapting. They're taking away what I call the kill shots, where they try to run through guys with their head. Guys are getting back to form tackling. But it starts at the youth level. It starts at the high school level. You got to teach guys how to play football and tackle the proper way, and then it'll translate to the college game, to the NFL game. It will adapt. It's not going anywhere. This is a great game. People just have to play it the way it was supposed to be played.
Anything I haven't asked you about that you want to talk about? Have I missed anything?
No, I love Clemson. I love what Clemson stands for. Proud to be a Clemson Tiger, and it's so much fun being back. I wish I could be here every week.
Well, welcome back, and you've been very generous with your time. You're here with your family, so have fun the rest of the weekend, and I know a lot of Clemson fans will get a lot out of this.
Thank you. It was good catching up with you.
Thanks, David. All right. Thanks to David Treadwell for sitting down with us. Thanks also to his good friend Russ Hebert for making this interview possible and helping set it up. Title sponsor of the Clemson Dubcast, Parham, Smith, and Archenhold Law Firm in downtown Greenville. Also the Abernathy Hotel in Clemson. And Tandem Payment in Greenville. Thanks so much to the sponsors. Thanks so much to all of you, most of all, for tuning in. 21,000 downloads so far over, I guess, about a month. So excited about that. Hope everybody has a great week. Stay tuned for the next podcast set to drop on Friday morning. Cheers.